Lewis Hamilton, the GOAT, the crybaby, the leaver, the winner, the best driver in the world, or the biggest baby known to man? I guess we'll find out soon. Juan, what do you think about it?
Or maybe he's just a college kid who, thinking he was going to have a good set of friends first semester, he followed them all on Instagram. And then over the winter break, realized how shady they were and unfollowed them all. Wait, I don't know where I'm going with that.
That's good enough for me. So yeah, we're here talking today about why we think Lewis Hamilton will or will not retire. We'll come down with our opinions at the end of the video. If you do like the video, please like, subscribe, in the comments, tell us
Your
how
polarized
much
opinion.
you polarized, and it completely unbiased how much you just absolutely hate watching Lewis Hamilton win. Because that's obviously the only thing. Nobody likes him, from what I've seen on the
Nobody
internet.
likes a
Everybody
winner.
hates him.
Nobody
Yeah,
likes a
nobody
winner.
likes a winner.
Except when it's Max Verstappen who wins the title in a very unorthodox fashion.
Yeah.
Everyone loves that.
Yeah, and poor old Lewis Hamilton, like Juan stated, he basically has gone AWOL on social media, which he honestly hasn't done in a very long time. I haven't seen any sponsors from him. He hasn't spoken a word since Abu Dhabi. I think he's still waiting on the decision from the FIA, which probably won't come out in his favor, especially with new FIA presidents and new members of the organization joining this year, thinking they've already stated that they want to change the rules for the future, but I don't think they're going to change the past.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna undo, Max winning the championship. I think one of the only things they can really do is kind of take a look at what they've done and maybe fix that for the next year. On December 15th of 2021, the FIA and I guess maybe the World Motorsport Council, they said that they were going to start investigating a detailed analysis of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And on January 19th, they're going to the Sporting Advisory Committee and they're going to be talking specifically about the use of the safety car, which was kind of what resulted in this championship ending the way that it did. Following that stage, there will be discussions with all of the F1 drivers and teams. And so anything that they kind of come up with, any discussions that they've had then will be brought up in March 18th, I think just before the first race in Bahrain. So it'll be really interesting to see what the FIA decides and what analysis and if they're going to admit that what they did was wrong and if Michael Massey's actually still going to be here.
I don't think they're never going to admit that they were wrong. You
Yeah.
just don't do that as a organization, and especially the FIA, they will not do that. But I don't see how they could really change bringing out safety cars, because if it's the safety and the health of the drivers in mind, safety cars should go out, as is like if a driver goes off in a dangerous area and their car is stalled or they're damaged and there's damage on the track and there's debris, like send out the safety car. I don't see how they should be like, well, let's hold on and wait a minute and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because all it takes is one car going 200 miles an hour while another car is on the side of the track. They make a mistake and boom. You know, you,
Donzos.
yeah. And if we're talking about safety wise, I understand that some people said, oh, the safety car didn't need to go out. Well, if we're talking about safety wise, anything can happen on a racetrack, and with these
Yeah.
cars going so fast, if we stop caring about the safety of the drivers, what's the point of having
Yeah.
any of
What is
these
all this
rules?
about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense to not bring that safety car out. I did think it was curious. That's the word I'll use. How they applied it for that last one, and how much power the sporting director, which at the time is Michael Massey, how much power he yielded and was able to kind of modify that. And I think if Mercedes would have pitted, and he would have been in position to, I think this wouldn't really even be such a hot topic because Lewis would have 100% smoked Max Verstappen on that last lap. And I understand that what they were trying to do was just not end the world championship where the championship contenders are equal points and ended under a safety car. I think that would be worse for the sport.
Would it have been worse in terms of viewership? Yeah, which is, I'm sure, which the FIA cares about because they want views. But at the end of the day, like, that's how races have ended. And I know
Yeah.
races not like this highly contested have ended, but in all fairness, it didn't go down the way it should have.
Hmm.
And they need to adjust the rules. Especially, they need to focus more on the power that the race director has and what the stewards can and can't do. and I think they need to make it more clear with the teams.
Yeah, and I know there's been talk of the coaches, specifically Toto and Horner. We heard them all season talking to the sporting director on the broadcast, and I know that's one of the things that they wanted to change. That should not really be allowed. I know one of the things that Mercedes, at least the rumor is that they have on their wish list, is that Michael Massi not return as the sporting director. I think they took that very personal, and honestly, when I heard that, Toto, it's called a motor race. It did sound a little personal when I heard that. But then
Oh,
I
yeah.
heard how he was talking to Christian Horner, and it was very much the same. So I don't think there was any bias. It was just kind of like, well, you're in that situation, and I'm going to screw you over.
It's like a bunch of siblings and they all want to share on the Xbox, and the mom comes in and says, "Well, this is just how it's going to be." And they're pissed off about it. I didn't really like Michael Massey all season. I don't think anybody really does. Yeah, they just give him too much power.
Yeah.
I know these races happen very quickly and incidents happen quickly, and there needs to be a decision that's made then and there. But I feel like if one person having that power, that much power to literally change a championship, it shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen. Yeah, so hopefully they leave with this analysis, right? And they are able to kind of fix some of that and maybe not wield so much power to that sporting director, but also fix some of their internal processes, fix some of the rule book, make things very clear that this must be done, and cannot be changed. I think that's really what everyone wants for this next year.
Well, this is what happens. It's like in any sport when a rule that kind of comes into effect that nobody really likes and it changes, it's just that's how sports evolve and that's how rule books evolve and get bigger, basically. It's like
Right.
incidents like this happen. This was a very big one that's going to create changes down the line, but at some point it had to happen.
Yeah.
And we'll move on from the rules and the safety cars and all that nonsense because at the end of the day, it's probably going to be the exact same thing as it was last year.
Yeah.
But back to Lewis Hamilton. Again, no social media, no post interviews.
Yeah.
Is he mad at his team? Do you think he's just upset in general how it went? Or do you think him and his ego and his confidence is just like trying to not say anything that would mess up his relationships? He's just trying to cool off, focus on the next season.
You know, I think if you look at it at a certain perspective, you can definitely pinpoint that his team maybe made some of those mistakes. They were being way too cautious. They weren't pitting when they had that opportunity, and there was two opportunities to do that. I think he could maybe, as a world champion, I don't know how to think like a world champion, but maybe he could be like, we were way too conservative. This played out the way it did because we weren't aggressive, and we should have been all in, for this race. So I don't know if he's necessarily mad at the team, but I think he maybe has a little bit of a grudge because he did unfollow everybody. Not that that means anything, but the
These
fact that
days,
you're,
that's a pretty big deal. I
yeah,
mean,
I
that's
mean,
like, that's a big deal.
he completely cleansed. I think what he's doing is just kind of going through a cleanse because, if you recap the season, there were a lot of times where his team made those decisions that were very crucial. And then there was a lot of times where he had some incredible luck. But, it just didn't play out the way that they wanted to during that last race.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, it's like, I'm sure he's upset. I don't think that he would just like say, F this team, F this race, F this whole career. But I could also see him after that race. I would feel the same way that he would just be upset. You know, it's an unfair thing that happens. This is unprecedented. It's never happened to him or honestly anybody at a race this close and this contested that it
Yeah.
came down to one split second decision.
Yeah.
And I
That
think
but
he's
made by
just
people
clearing
that
his head.
weren't racing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it wasn't any of his mistakes. I mean, he drove a great race. He was out ahead by miles. The race seemed to be over. And, we've rehashed this over and over again. I still can't believe when that safety car came out, I was just like, this is going to be insane.
Yeah.
And sure, the decision to be ultra conservative even at the end was pretty weird. I mean, Verstappen, if he was P1 and Lewis was behind him on the last lap, they would they would be touching wheels for sure. They would be fighting like crazy because Verstappen, he proved it in Abu Dhabi that he will not surrender. And just like in Saudi Arabia too, he will not give up. Like
Yeah.
he will cut, he will fight, he will knock your entire car into a wall if he has to win those races.
And Lewis Hamilton is very much the same, and that's why I don't think he's going to retire. I think, is this a huge setback? Is he needing some kind of a mental cleanse over these past few months that he hasn't even been doing anything, right? At least publicly. I think that's just what he's doing. He's just going through kind of a mental cleanse, obviously waiting on what the FIA decides. If he sees that there's going to be no change, I could see him maybe retiring. But I think he's a world champion, and he knows what that success feels like, and he's obviously still very good. So I think because of those reasons, I don't think he's going to retire. I think he's just kind of radio silent right now, and he's just kind of waiting to see how things play out and see if it's worth it for him.
Yeah, there's no way he retires. I mean, we talk about this man and his ego and his drive to win, his drive to survive. Quote that. Give me my paycheck.
Thanks,
But
Netflix.
he is too good, too fast. Even at his age, even he's still a really young guy, but a lot of these people are like in their 20s, early 20s, and they're racing against this absolute beast of a driver.
Yeah.
It would be insane for him to retire at this stage. I think if he did retire, he wouldn't be the greatest of all time. I think he's got a few more incredible seasons, if not more, ahead of him, especially with Mercedes, even with the changes for 2022, even with the changes down the line. He's been through so many different cars and he outperforms almost everybody on the track. So
Yeah. Yeah,
I
he's
couldn't
still got it.
if he retires, I I might stop watching F1. It would just be boring at that point.
Yeah, he's one of the defining characters over this past decade. Essentially, he's been winning for almost an entire decade. So, if he leaves, it's going to be a huge blow to the sport, and it's gonna have to force some huge changes to the FIA, to the F1, the sport itself. So, I agree. I totally don't see him retiring, and barring whatever investigation comes out from the FIA, I just don't see him retiring.
I say he's a bit of a crybaby at the end of the day, though. I get it, it hurts, but you can go home and cry to your, 8 other titles, championships. It's like, okay, let the guy have one. You come back, whoop his butt next year.
Yeah, for real. So yeah, thanks for watching, and that was our attempt at analysis. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment on whether you think he will retire.